Good evening, and welcome to Beware Spoilers. I am Adam. So, today we have a movie I was looking forward to for an unreasonable degree, I would say. It's a movie that I, saw the trailer for, and I was like, oh shit, that's really cool. I was saying to people, I'm a huge fan of this revival of the film noir that we have going on now. And I think going back to Philip Marlowe is a great idea, because, we have, the iconic works of, Humphrey Bogart and James Gardner and all these people from the, my nose is a little stuffy, from, what's it called? From the past, I guess, who took these, roles. And then we go back even further back to the 40s and all of that, where we get the real boom of film noir before it, died. And I think it's more of a wider conversation to be had about whether or not comic book movies are going to go the way of the Western or the noir. I don't think it will, and there's a larger conversation to be had about that, but, it was a big Hollywood trend at the time, the noir movie with the hard-boiled detective who's going to, kick ass and, solve the crime and, probably get laid along the way somewhere, or, that kind of thing. So, and then when you see this trailer, it's like, oh, holy shit, they really nailed the aesthetic. It looks really cool. This seems like it's going to be a worthwhile, kind of homage to that time period. And I was all for this. I saw this trailer, and I was like, cool. The movie is out, and it seems that the movie is kind of if you told me that an AI wrote this script, that they used ChatGPT or something like that, and said, write me a film noir movie with, with details from, the various Philip Marlowe books, and, have this happen, and this happen, and this happen, and then this is what was spit out, I would be like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because there's just something missing about it. Something small, that, it's the fact that, it hits all the notes that you would expect it to. Everything that you expect to happen in this movie is going to happen. Not from a plot standpoint, but more from what you expect from a movie with this look and feel. And all of that works. It's missing the underlying resonance for why it works. It's it's pulling from the greats without understanding what made them great in the first place. It's breaking the rules without understanding the rule for why you're breaking it. Nothing, they're not breaking any rules here, trust me. They're not doing anything too groundbreaking, but it's like that old saying, where it's to break the rules, you must first understand and know the rule to be able to be okay, so we're gonna see this, and then we're gonna subvert expectations by doing this instead. This movie doesn't have that. It doesn't have the underlying understanding of what it is about these tropes that make them work. What it is about these lines of dialogue that make them work within the confines of this movie, which is a shame, because that, I think, really drags down the whole experience. It's I was expecting this to potentially be this year's version of The Outfit, the movie last year with Mark Rylance and Zoe Deutsch and Dylan O'Brien, which I went into with zero expectations, but was oh, that's really cool. It's all shot in one location and all of that, and I was hoping this would be that, where I was looking at the movie I didn't know was coming, and I thought it might be okay, and we'll see how that works, and it falls flat. That's the problem here, is that the movie falls flat, because you don't have any deeper subtext. And I'm not saying that film noir movies of the past were necessarily deeply movies with deep subtext or anything like that. A lot of times they were intentionally not so, because they're, mass marketed movies. They were what we would look at today as the comic book movie or the Western or something like that, where it was a cheap thing to make, where to the point where when Nightmare Alley was made in 1946, I want to say, when that movie was made, it was done with a budget, which was an anomaly at the time, where the movie was made with money, and it wasn't a cheap production. And I think that's kind of indicative of what we're dealing with the genre. But the problem is, if you look at what other film noirs have done, and what it is that made them great, and what created the enduring kind of, the enduring appeal of this genre, where to this day we still get homages to it, where it's the Batman, was a great homage. Nightmare Alley was a remake of a classic film noir movie that you can get on the Criterion app if you were so inclined to watch it now. But the fact of the matter is, we have all of these movies that are kind of doing that. And then for this one, which is just going to be like, screw the pretenses, we're going to do something new that's going to kind of be in that same vein, it kind of falls completely flat because it doesn't land what it needs to land. I don't know. I mean, the set dressing is great. I love the costuming. I love the set dressing. They really nailed the aesthetic of, like, sleazy 1940s LA. Like, that whole thing is nailed, and Liam Neeson does what Liam Neeson does best, and, you know, he's good in the movie, and I think he's, you know, for a 100th movie for him, this is a great thing for him, and good for him on hitting 100 films, but I just don't think the rest of the movie is that great. And the plot isn't anything to keep you entertained. I think the best thing I can really say about the movie, besides the costuming and the set design and all of that, which I'm a big sucker for, is it's short. You're not going to be wasting a ton of time watching it. But at the end of the day, I think this is a movie that's probably best served if you were to wait to watch it until it hits home media. Be that on streaming or be that on DVD, whichever way you want to do it. I would say probably wait for it to go to Redbox. Or a streaming service. I would say probably don't buy it on DVD. It's not that good. But it's definitely something that's probably better enjoyed watching at home instead of waiting for, instead of watching it watching it in the theater and spending time there. Especially when we have potential for other movies in the next few weeks coming out that could be better. I would be interested to see where this lines up. And I'm seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania tomorrow. I'm curious to see if I like this more or less. I'm inclined to believe, after rewatching the finale of Loki last night, I'm inclined to believe that I'm probably going to end up liking Quantumania a little bit better. Just as I'm a big sucker for Kang and Conqueror, and I think they're doing some really cool things with Kang, and I want to see it play out. But I would be interested to see what happens with this whole situation and how it all plays out. But, if you don't want to see Quantumania because you've read the reviews and you think the movie's not going to be great, or if you want to protest the end of cinema, or if you want to be that person, then I guess you can go see Marlowe instead. I think Emily's playing in some theaters. It's not playing by me till next week. But if there is anything you're going to see this weekend, and we're going to cover it over the course of this weekend as well, if there is anything you're going to see, I would say go and see the collection of the Oscar-nominated shorts, the short live-action and short animated. I don't know if they do short documentary too, because it's now the second straight year my theater doesn't have that option. But it doesn't mean it's not being done. It could just be my theater isn't hosting that. Instead, they're hosting screenings of Strange World, which baffles me. But we'll wrap up there for today. And like I said, tomorrow we have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Tomorrow morning we will be covering Tomorrow we'll be covering the new episode of The Bad Batch, and we'll be covering the shorts this weekend. So until then, have a great rest of your week.